blended family.
We are a 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 blended family.
We're a blended family.
We are a blended family.
We are a blended family.
We are a blended family.
And we are a blended family.
And, blended families, week 5 of 12, the spousal relationship. Before we really get going, I just want to thank everybody for bringing all their stuff. I want to mention ChristianLivingRadio.com that puts our classes out on their web radio site. And they'll be here next week to do the live broadcast. And you can find all our resources on our website at blendedfamiliesministry.org. Everything is out there. And I just got last fall's videos on the website.
Oh, cool.
All 12. So I'll be getting more of them out there as I go, but at least I got those out there.
Thank you.
All right, the spousal relationship. So we're going to be talking about husbands and wives for the most part, or for those that are married, and for those that aren't, how it should be when you have one. So not everybody is right at the moment, but
you get one.
You never know when you might find one. Right?
That's right.
But it's part of this ministry is to prepare people, because it's blended families, it's do-overs of some sort. So we want people to be ready, have their vertical in good shape, and be okay with themselves so they don't suck the life out of the other person.
That's right.
Okay?
Well, we also have married couples, Larry, that they just like the accountability,
Sure.
come in for the teaching, and maybe some people that have been married for a while have issues, and they just need to hear the teaching again. So we have many different types. Yeah, we need some fine-tuning.
Yeah. So there's basic info, and then there's fine-tuning, and everything in between.
My teacher called it a maintenance. You might need to go in for maintenance or a tune-up.
Right. Well, just like a car, right? You got to change the oil every so often. If you drive far enough, you got to change the tires out because they just wear out. Batteries. Been there, done that. Just last week. So there's always something, but
check the tires.
You have a whole lot less trouble if you take care of it as you go.
Exactly.
Right? Okay, so this is all about God. So we start there. God created man in His image. We've talked about that before. Male and female, He created them. Okay? So, back in Genesis 1:28, God blessed them, and then He told them, so He blessed them, and then He gave them something to do. Gave them a purpose, right? Told them to be fruitful, be productive, and as I was writing it up there, I was like, okay, fruitful could be part of the multiplication process, but not necessarily only.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, we're being fruitful in doing this, doing the ministry stuff, teaching and sharing and counseling, and that's being fruitful. Multiplying is making more people. Give me more people. But God wants godly offspring. Right? So be fruitful, do something for the kingdom, multiply, increase the number of people in the kingdom, and take dominion.
It goes back to Pastor Boner, where he talked about we can count how many seeds are in an apple, but only God knows how many apples are in a seed.
Yeah.
So that
I love that.
multiplication.
I really love that part. That's one of my favorites. We can. There's 6 seeds in this apple, but if you planted them all, how many apples would that produce? Who knows? God does, right? Take dominion. Again, that's part of our purpose. To be the caretakers of the planet, right? for God's glory. That's part of the purpose. It's all about Him. He created us for His purposes, His glory, right? He created man in His image, and man is the glory of God. As we said last time, women are the glory of the man. So we all get a little bit of glory, but mostly it all goes to God, right? Men should be all about glorifying God, not themselves. So God did a couple of things. He blessed them and told them, so He gave them orders to be filled with a purpose, multiply themselves, and take dominion over all the stuff that's moving around. Now we see a lot of stuff these days in the dominion part. We've kind of given that up. When sin entered, Satan really ended up with dominion over the world, over the earth, the air, prince of the air. So there's a lot of things in the earth, especially in the plant department, that have taken dominion over a lot of people. Drugs, pharmaceuticals come from a lot of plants, or just even chemicals, which are from the earth. So there's a lot of things that Satan has used from the earth and the plant world to take dominion over us. Different addictions and so forth. So be fruitful, multiply, and take dominion. We're supposed to be able to use the fruit of self-control, fruit of the spirit of self-control, to be able to take dominion over all this other stuff. But if we have no self-control, everything starts taking dominion over us. So it's a very, very important fruit of the spirit to have. Okay, we're talking about purpose. Females produce eggs. We're going to be doing a little biology today, just in case. Anybody? I'm glad we don't have any kids in here. Sometimes we do. That always makes it a challenge to do this lesson when there's like teens in here. Females produce eggs. Males fertilize them. Okay? Females are the bloodline continuity. Males basically provide the name and the provision. I talked about at the in the Old Testament when a young couple would get betrothed, right? The two families would sit down at a banquet table, and she would be at the end of at one end, and the groom would be at the other end, and his family would be on one side, and her family would be on the other side, right? So he would take some bread and break it and pass down her side of the table. He's got the bread, he's passing it down her side, and everybody takes a little piece and passes it on until it gets to her. If anybody in the family doesn't want it to get to her, they just hold it. And that's...
They don't approve of it.
That's it. No, I don't think so. So that's the end of it. And then on the other side, she has the cup with the wine. Okay, so she is basically going to tell his family, I will continue your bloodline. And the wine, the cup of wine represents the bloodline. The bread is the provision. He's guaranteeing to her family that he will provide for their daughter, right? So the cup of wine goes down his side of the family, and the same thing. They can take a sip and pass it down, or they can just hold it if they're against it. So either the bread doesn't get to her and the wine doesn't get to him. On either case, then that's somebody said no to something. But I'm sure in most cases the bread got there and the wine got there and everybody's cool. But there was always that option that somebody could say no, and they just had to go with that. All right, so females are the bloodline because they're producing the offspring, right? The husband, it's his name that gets carried on, and he is supposed to be the provider. Wives, females are the wives, the mothers, and the queens. Husbands, over here are the males, husbands, fathers. We have teachers, nurturers, husband builders. Right? Man over here, husbands, fathers, prophets, priests, king. Speak the word, spiritual covering, government, discipline. Like I said, this was a holism, guide, guard, and govern.
Right.
And another one of their purposes for the men is to reflect God's image in the home, to the family, to the wife, the kids, and all that kind of stuff. All right? This is my favorite part coming up, the waffles versus spaghetti, but before we get there...
Say on that. That's a very important part, that men reflecting God's image, because in broken families, and we know the enemy wants to try to attack the family, but when that happens, a lot of times children have a hard time following after God, trusting God, and having faith in God.
Right.
Because the man's image is not there to reflect God.
Right. Very true. And that's one reason Satan loves to take the head out. Fathers are supposed to be the head. Satan comes along, takes the head out, and everything dies.
The rest of the,
right?
Yeah,
but that's very true. And we've had several generations now, 3, 4 maybe, that, it keeps getting worse, where there's no fathers. Many, especially the males that have no father, a high percentage end up in jail.
Yeah. You can see it reflected
or they're
in
at
society.
gangs.
Yeah.
They have no idea. And even if you had a father in the home, if it was a bad one, you still have a hard time understanding God as a father that loves you and provides and cares and never leaves you or forsakes you and all those kind of things. That's what fathers are supposed to do, is be the image of God in the home. Okay. Glad you brought that up. Okay, waffles versus spaghetti. I'm going to play a little video here. It's 12, 13 minutes. I got the extended version this time. Usually it's about 5. But it's Mark Gungor. A lot of you have already seen it. The reason I'm using this one, we saw Yvette and Alfonso play it in their class down in Avondale. And the extra part deals with stress and how men and women deal with it differently. So I thought it was a good thing to throw in there. But it's all about men's brains versus women's brains. It's from a thing that he does called Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage. There's a DVD set out there, and I got this off of YouTube. But... So...
You got it ready?
Yep. So you really won't be able to see it that well, but hopefully you'll be able to hear it okay.
Okay, so now we're going to start discussing men's brains, women's brains.
Can y'all hear that?
Very different from each other.
Can you expand it more? It makes it worse.
All right, now men's brains are very unique. Men's brains are made up of little boxes. And we have a box for everything. We've got a box for the car. We've got a box for the money. We've got a box for the job. We've got a box for you. We've got a box for the kids.
Wait a minute. Larry, that should be louder.
We got
I can hardly hear it.
And the rule is, the boxes don't touch.
Okay, let me see if I got it. You have that little speaker?
He does have a little speaker, and that usually is even louder through the speaker. So I'm not understanding what's going on.
Well, there's no volume on the speaker, so...
But I know you have had it louder than that.
I want to start with men's brains. All right, now men's brains are very unique. Men's brains are made up of little
Best I can do.
We need to
We have
get a
a
different
box
speaker.
for everything. We've got a box for the car. We've got a box for the money. We've got a box for the job. We've got a box for you. We've got a box for the kids.
Can you bring it up here?
for your mother somewhere in the basement. We got boxes everywhere.
Maybe by Ben?
Yeah, right here on the...
Mistake this. Will you still be able to see it, Ben? Maybe just kind of... You have to move the camera in.
And the rule is the boxes don't touch.
Are you listening, Todd?
I've seen it before. I just listen.
When a man discusses a particular subject, we go to that particular box, we pull that box out, we open the box, we discuss only what is in that box. All right? And then we close the box and put it away, being very, very careful not to touch any other boxes. Sorry, my Catholic upbringing got in there for a minute, but I'm not a Catholic, but I went to Catholic school when I was little. I had a nun who taught on hell like she was born and raised there. I mean, I'll never forget it, but it did me good, actually. It was a good thing. Now, women's brains are very, very different from men's brains. Women's brains are made up of a big ball of wire. And everything is connected to everything. The money's connected to the car's connected to your job, and your kids are connected to your mother, and everything's connected to everything. It's like... It's like the internet superhighway. And it's all driven by energy that we call emotion. It's one of the reasons why women tend to remember everything. Because if you take an event and you connect it to an emotion, it burns in your memory and you can remember it forever. The same thing happens for men. It just doesn't happen very often because, quite frankly, we don't care. Women tend to care about everything. And she just loves it. Okay? Now, men, we have a box in our brain that most women are not aware of. This particular box has nothing in it. It's true. In fact, we call it the nothing box. And of all the boxes a man has in his brain, the nothing box is our favorite box. If a man has a chance, he'll go to his nothing box every time. That's why a man can do something seemingly completely brain dead for hours on end. You know, like fishing. And we love it. That's why a guy can sit in front of a TV and go. This drives our wives nuts because they'll come up and say, "Stop that! You can't possibly be watching anything!" I'm not. Go away. Now they've actually measured this. The University of Pennsylvania a couple of years ago did a study and discovered that men have the ability to think about absolutely nothing and still breathe. You know, they connected all the wires and stuff like that, and watch the brain activity, and then all of a sudden, I think he's dead. Huh? You know, women can't do it. They can't do it. Their minds never stop. And they don't understand the nothing box. And it drives them crazy. Because nothing drives a woman more crazy or makes her feel more irritated than to witness a man doing nothing. Now, one of the biggest revelations I get out of women is this whole nothing box issue. Everything's starting to make sense. And I've had women say, "Oh, it's nothing. Well, can I go in? It's nothing." Now, one of the biggest revelations I get out of women is this whole nothing box issue. Everything's starting to make sense. And I've had women say, "Oh, it's nothing. Well, can I go in? It's nothing box with him?" Why not? Because then it's something. Besides, you'll walk in there and go, you know, this place could really use some pictures. Nice little table over here, some flowers. Is it? No! Nothing! Get out! We don't want nothing. Now this handles the way men and women handle stress. Okay? When a man is stressed out, all he wants to do is run to his nothing box. This is how we unwind. The last thing we want to do when we're stressed out is talk about it. We don't want to talk about it, we just want to... Because this drives her nuts, you know. A woman will see a man in that vegetative state and she'll come up and go, "What you thinking about?" Nothing. We gotta be thinking about something. No, I was thinking about nothing. In fact, I was on the road until you showed up. Go away. All right? Because that's how he handles stress. He just... Now, when a woman is stressed out, she has to talk about it. If she doesn't talk about it, her brain will literally explode. So she'll start just, "I don't know, might have something to do with this. No, I could have that. You know, I never thought about this. My brother over here said me another. And I know men who run from their wives when they do this. They do. I say, "Well, why do you run from her?" He says, "Because I don't know what to tell her." I said, "Dear God, man, who told you to tell her anything?" She don't want you to tell her anything. See, a lot of guys, they feel obligated when you start explaining all your stress. They feel obligated to fix you. That's right. Because that's what a man does. A man only tells his troubles to another man in hopes that that man will help fix it. Okay? But she's not a man. And you try and fix her, she's gonna kill you. Right? She doesn't want your advice. She doesn't want your help. She wants you to shut up and listen. And a couple of ladies, that's right, you tell her. Tell her to shut up. They like that. Now, I had one guy tell me, he said, man, if she just tell me how she feels. I said, she doesn't know yet. So what it is, that's how she figures out how she feels, by connecting this wire to that wire, this wire, and so. Now, because they love each other, they offer to each other their answer, their solution. A man senses his wife is stressed out. He loves the girl. He offers to the girl his best and finest solution. Or just quit talking about it. Just quit thinking about it. And that's when she starts reaching for the knives and stuff. She's gonna stab you if you keep it up, okay? Now, a woman, she senses her husband's all stressed out. She loves him. Therefore, she offers to him her best and finest solution. Talk to me! Why won't you talk to me? Go away. He doesn't want to talk to you. Leave him alone. He will not die. He's not a woman. What? I know you've got to talk it through. You're going to be twisted inside. He's not like that. Leave the boy alone. You tell he's stressed out, just let him go to his nothing box. Just stay away.
All right.
Does anybody relate?
What did he say?
Huh? Were you talking to me?
I just got out of my nothing box.
Yeah, he has a whole bunch more tapes. That's Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage, I think.
Yeah.
Got 5 or 6 of them. He is just Mark Gungor. He is awesome. He really is. Oh.
I've heard of this other guy who is super hilarious too. His name is Steven. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's Fruitic. He's with the Evolution Church. It's called. They have like a Bible app. Fruitic. Yeah, I think that's it. He has a Bible app too. It's called Evolution, whatever. Oh my gosh, he's so hilarious. He'll talk about couples and stuff while he's preaching, and he just makes it so funny. He's the best one. I used to love Dr. Charles Stanley, but now he's my favorite.
Oh, cool. We appreciate, everybody telling us things like that, because we use, those things in the class. It helps relate to other people. So I think Larry had heard about him through the men's group or something. I'm not exactly sure where we heard.
Gungor?
Yeah.
Well, he came to one of the IMCs.
Well, that was way after the fact, because Leo didn't even know who he was.
I was laughing because when, she'll ask, in fact, I was thinking of specific instances. Like, she'll ask me what's wrong, and I'll say nothing, and it's really nothing, and she'll keep pestering me that I'll even just make something up.
hope you're enjoying today's Blended Families Ministry show. Please check out our resources on our website at blendedfamiliesministry.org. Also, if this program blesses you in some way, it would be a huge blessing to us if you would also consider a small donation or even become a monthly partner with us. No donation is too small. So you relate real good.
It's like you don't believe him. It's like surely you don't. Surely he's got to think of something. So you just keep thinking, oh, he just doesn't want to tell me, or he's lying. But no, they really do have a nothing box.
We're not wired like that, so it's hard for us to believe. Like, how can you not have nothing in your box?
Right.
I mean,
well, that's really the point, because the ladies don't have a nothing area, a nothing box. They just can't relate to nothing. There's always got to be something. Guys are all about nothing.
Simple, some things always have to come up between 2 and 4 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah. All right, so, he talks about boxes and a ball of wire. I like to use waffles and spaghetti because I'm more about food. But it's, the waffles have all the little squares, the little boxes in there. And spaghetti, you can't tell one noodle from another. They're all just there. Okay? So, God created us differently. We don't process things the same way because we have a purpose. Women tend to be relational, which means they're more about like right now, today, and in the past. Men are more today and in the future. God created the men to be the visionaries. We talked about that last week. The CEO, chairman of the board, the vision, CEO, and all that. Men are generally more logical because of something that happens in the brain to the male babies in the womb. There's a testosterone bath that takes place, and it changes some of the connections, and it really kind of forces the men or the male babies to use one half of the brain at a time. That doesn't happen to the female babies, so they don't get those things. Actually, most people think the men are brain damaged, but the women get to use both sides all at the same time. They can go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They can be multitaskers, much better than men, and those kind of things. But, the brains are different. We heard all about that. The brains are different. We see things differently. We think about things differently. We process information differently. Our emotional activity is different. All that stuff is different. Now, we talked 2 weeks ago about celebrate your differences.
Yes.
Right? It's part of being married is being able to have that fruit of the Spirit of self-control and long-suffering, patience, in other words, to be able to take the time to really get to know and understand the differences that God created us with, just because one is male and one is female. I mean, that in itself is a big difference. Plus all the other preferences that we have along the way. But just be aware that men and women are different. Yes.
And I think that really comes into play when you think about, when I think about that, I think about the importance of, men having to go out and be the provider or going out to war. That's very important to have your brain designed like that. And I know we're having that debate now about women going to war, but if you're mixing your relation with your logical, you can get yourself in a heap of trouble in the midst of war when you're thinking about, oh my God, what is my family doing? And you're getting shot at. And you have to stay focused. And you can't, be thinking about, well, what's my family? After that fact, then you can think about that. You can go into that box.
And that's part of this. The way this is processed is we tend to be a lot more focused on one thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
We focus on the mission.
Yeah.
Like in a battle or something. Mm-hmm. You're focused on what's going on right now. Your head is not 1,000 miles away or whatever thinking about, gee, I wonder what my kids are doing. Yeah. that's not in there at that moment, right? Yeah, afterwards, when there's a break in the action, yeah, you can sit and think about that.
Yeah, another thing, that's why, and I'm just going by the stories, that's why, you hear when the men get the Dear John letters, that's why that's almost like a death sentence for a man. Because now his mind is totally off of, his mission.
Right.
And that was devastating to them because now they've entered, relational into this very, combat zone.
Yeah.
So God designed that for a reason because of the different, purposes that you said that we were.
Well, I mean, you don't. Part of the warrior thing is the guard.
Yeah.
Aspect.
Yeah.
I read. What was that book? Can't think of the title, but it was all about God's heart. And A Wild at Heart, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
But it was all about how God's a warrior. He's not just, sitting on his throne eating bonbons all day. He is a warrior. There is a war going on, right? The whole spiritual warfare thing we were talking about the other day is all about God's kingdom and him being able to defend it and expand it and all that. It's a war, right? God himself has to be a warrior. And that's the kind of heart he created us with, especially the men. I think, one of those things when he kind of split the image into two parts was the man, Adam, got the warrior part. Eve didn't. Yeah. Something along those lines. But, he created them differently for all these purposes that we were talking about. And this was a big thing for me to understand that my wife is more about how we get somewhere than where we're going. The where we're going is more up to me. I'd rather know where I'm going than
the visionary.
I could care less what happened the other day. It's you get into an argument or something. It's like, that was 10 minutes ago. What's the problem? Let's move on, right? Or I slept on that since then. That's old news.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it's the difference between headlines and the details.
The rest of the story.
Yes, because men, that's why I couldn't figure out how they can read a newspaper because they just read the headlines.
Right.
And it don't take them long to read that newspaper. But a woman, I'm there all day long trying to read that. I stopped buying the newspaper because I couldn't get through it fast enough. I said, it's just piling up because I can't read all the articles fast enough.
Right.
Because we look for the details.
And then especially Sunday edition, it's like this thick. It takes you all week just to get through the Sunday paper. So I think that's why, what was his name? The rest of this, Paul Harvey.
Oh, yeah.
The rest of the story guy. He would always, and that's kind of the whole public speaking thing is kind of, here's what I'm going to tell you. And then you tell them. And then here's what I told you, right? So the guys get the headlines off the bat. You fill in the rest of the story, and then for anybody that was in their nothing box, most of the time you get them on the way out.
Larry?
Yes.
So you know that I have a tooth with waffles and spaghetti, and it's not that I'm against whatever his name. It's just that the way my brain works is the way my brain works. And one thing that I don't like about other people, especially females, is to put me in a box. And I'm a big fan of science as well as I'm a big fan of the Word of God. And I'm studying neuroplasticity, which is talking about the brain. And so what happens is basically when you think in a certain way, you are creating your brain. Believe it or not, but there are pathways that are created. It's almost like, from to get here to home, they had to build that street that we are all now taking, right? But if I would build a different one, a small one, people would start using that until that one will become a big street. So with neuroplasticity, it's all about choices that we make. And I understand the principle that I don't understand, that, women are different. To me, the thing is, does the Holy Spirit live in both of us? And if they have both, I have no problem with them having both brains, and I have only one. It's just the fact when. What I don't like to believe is that now women have the expectation of men having a box, because you might not find that box.
Totally agree.
Or me finding a woman that's, and she's not connecting to the basics, and it's like, what happened to her spaghettis? So my thing is, I'm trying to be in the middle, listening to both sides. And for instance, the whole thing with the fishing, I think women can do that too. It's not a matter of...
Yeah. Well, that's very general.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. We're not talking everybody's that way.
Right.
But it's a good example in a general way to give people, oh yeah, I don't see things exactly the way you do. I mean, that's ultimately what we're looking at. But yeah, everything you said is...
Rod, can you turn on the heat a little bit?
You are unique. You're unique.
But the thing of it is
so is everybody.
When we look at the society as a whole, what Tibor just said, not everyone has that understanding, that information, that knowledge. Once you have that knowledge, then you can do something different. But when we think about the world as a whole, you see us in very neatly designed habits. Men do this, women do that. And you can especially see it in other cultures, like, for instance, I'll just say, and I hope I don't get in trouble.
Turn the camera.
Some cultures where women are made to be under the man and oppressed, and you wear this and you act like, and then the man, I do this, and we're in very specific roles. This right here is kind of helping us get an understanding that we have all unique roles. We're not in competition with each other,
right?
Because we all have our own unique role, and they're all to magnify God. Right. But not everyone has the freedom and the understanding to have this information where they don't have to feel like they have to oppress the other or be dominated, but to celebrate the differences, like you said.
Yeah.
She should be at the Nobel Prize. Hey, please send your nomination.
Yeah. So
Aaron,
I guess what Tibor has is a box of spaghetti.
Okay.
Well, in a lot of instances, the guys are more like the women, and the women are more like the guys. Yeah.
I think generally what we're talking about is our nature.
No.
Is, guys, that definitely, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the way I do stress is just check out.
Yeah.
So I go to my nothing box, and I just want to chill and then come back, because I just kind of find a place over here I can just go.
And many men are like that.
Yeah, like
they need their man cave.
It's like, the man cave thing.
For instance, what I relate to, what they're saying is God created me in a way where I'm desensitized when, for instance, I go to war, so to speak. Mm-hmm. I relate to that. Mm-hmm. Then I relate to what Karen said, because if I would be and this is spiritual warfare, because I never, if I go to that, I can't be thinking of everything and feeling everything. I would just be my worst enemy. So God gave me that ability to be not so sensitive. Focus. Or if I'm in a mode where I need to do some mechanical stuff, right? Mm-hmm. I can't do that, screwing whatever and thinking, oh, does she love me? Does she understand me? Because I wouldn't be able to do that. So there's a plus and a minus. My underlying thing with the waffles and spaghetti is know me. Don't put me in a box.
That's right.
And the same with her. And we can talk about how the boxes work and how the spaghettis.
Yeah. Kind of what I was hearing is it's one thing to have compartments in your head.
Okay.
But that's different than someone else trying to put you in a box that fits their. We're always trying to put God in a box.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right? That's true.
And
so I'm thinking when you don't want to be in a box, that's the kind of box you're talking about. More so than compartments.
But you know why we tried to put him in a box? I figured. I'm just a child. But God is so big. In order for us to understand Him, we need to bring Him down from where He is.
Sure.
And that's my biggest mistake. I don't know about everybody else. I'm trying to elevate myself versus bringing Him down. Because every time we bring Him down, now we make prayer an institution. And it's like, well, not really. It's
right.
And everything else is just, secularized.
Yeah, that's I guess the biggest drawback to being a finite being trying to figure out an infinite God.
Yeah. I think I'm hearing Tibor saying, don't stereotype us. Yeah, this is fun information to know, and so let's learn from that, but be careful not to stereotype. But I think, Paul, were you wanting to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say it's primarily learned behavior. Even when you're born, as a child, you don't know how to eat. Everyone has had a child where they start choking, because even eating's a learned behavior. That's why you sensitize it. That's why there's sensory issues, like with our daughter that's autistic. But anyways, so it's all learned behavior, and it's just what society does to us, growing up. In fact, I give people this example. I tell people when you have, a child and they're 2 years old, 2.5, 3, you turn off the lights and they're in the pitch dark, they don't care. They're still playing with their toys. They're not scared. As soon as they start turning 4 or 5, now you turn off the lights and now they're scared. And it's not nothing that you taught them. You didn't teach them, the monster's going to come get you at night. It's just what they see from, what's on TV. Everything happens at night. What they hear at school.
That's good.
It's just society teaches us as people, women specific, and men, because we're not of the world, but we live in it.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And that's really what he's trying to address is our worldly nature.
Right.
We tend to process things that way, right? But if we have the understanding that we're different, and that's kind of how our brains work, now we can address, like you said, okay, I'll come over here and I'll listen to what you want to say, right? But I'm like scared, but. The other way, and that was one of the things I had to learn, was it's not up to me to fix whatever the problem is. It took me a long time to figure out all I have to do is just listen and validate. It's not up to me to fix. But like you said, guys get together, they want an answer. They don't want to just talk, they want an answer, because they don't even talk if they don't want an answer, usually.
Part of that is, for me, is because, not to put men in a box, but if they do have that one thing they're thinking about, they can get a fix or an answer. Whereas me, I am the spaghetti. And there's so many things. I needed him to be able to stop and say, okay, let's get rid of this group of spaghettis and let's just talk about what the issue is here.
Focus on this one noodle.
Just the one noodle. And he was really good at that. In turn, he learned how to communicate about everything.
Yeah.
So
just one thing at a time.
Yeah, one thing at a time.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's hard to do a bunch of stuff at once. All right, well, let me try to get through the rest of this. We're already really out of time, but anyway. So, this is about the spousal relationship, the husband and the wife, or man and woman. 1 Corinthians 7, 1 through 7 talks about how it should be one man, one woman. And as far as the sexual relationship goes, do not defraud one another. Your body isn't yours, it's mine, and mine isn't mine, it's yours in a marriage. God intended each of us in getting married to be virgins, but in a blended family, that's kind of not possible. Right? It's a do-over. But when you abstain prior to getting married, you can confess the sin, hit the reset button with God, and come together after the wedding and consummate it and all that kind of stuff. Enter into a new covenant. Just some other stuff. Love gives, lust takes. Everything got perverted. Sex is something you want to go get instead of give. Right? When it's a love thing between a husband and a wife, it's about giving and sharing. in relationship with God as well. Ephesians 5:21 through the rest of the chapter 33. It starts off with submit one to another. Right? So we talked about this in the first lesson, and it's part of our pyramid over here. Each person submits to God individually. Then you submit one to another as husband and wife, equal in value. And then after those two things happen, then the wife is to submit to the husband. Male does not equal female. The way things are going these days, they want to make those equal. Same. No difference. Doesn't work. It is equal in value, though, just not in identity. Society, our culture, wants that to be equal in identity more so than in value. Again, we're talking mutual respect, submitting one to another because we're equal value. Husband, wife, same. It's not, I'm up here, you're down here, we're here. Equal value in the eyes of God. Again, husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church. Wives, respect your husband. Now, respect needs to be based on position, not performance. So many times we hear, well, how can I respect him when he's doing all this crap? From a wife. Well, they're coming from a position or the way they're looking at it is he doesn't deserve, based on his performance, for me to respect him. Well, it doesn't say anything about because he's doing what he's supposed to do. But obviously, if the husband is loving God and he's loving his wife, that's really all that needs to happen.
Amen. God
put him there. He gave him to you. He gave you to him. There's a position of authority and all that. We talked about this over here. Prophet, priest, and king. Got the queen, etc., etc. But it's position, And the fifth commandment: honor your mother and father. It doesn't say anything about because they did such a great job raising you. That's right. It just says honor them. Because it's who they are.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you'll have a lot of years.
Yeah.
That respect also goes back to respecting God.
Well, that's where it starts, yeah.
Yeah, because, okay, God let this person be your husband, so that's a gift he's given you. And something about when you do respect, sad to say I had to learn this the hard way, but when you give that respect, it's kind of like you're bringing a standard up. A person will meet that standard. And what makes me think of that is when I was in cafeteria and I'm working with these teenage kids, I would say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. And when I did that, the young man came to me, he said, you know what, I really appreciate you're the only one that showed me respect. Mm-hmm. And so that made him lift up to that expectation that I gave to him.
Yeah.
But just saying, yes, sir, yes, ma'am.
That's good.
And then he turned around and gave me respect as well.
Yeah. Well,
and so
you reap what you sow.
Exactly.
Right? But when we base the value we give to someone else, respect,
amen,
based on their performance, now we got bad expectations. And now, if we're going to respect somebody because they meet our expectations of performance, we're going to get disappointed, and then we're going to lower the value we put on them, and we're going to disrespect them, and we're going to end up getting bitter and shut the door on them.
Yep. That's true.
Can I say something?
Sure.
So I think last year you had me speak on love and respect. And I still remember I went into a week study and prayer and fasting. And it was interesting to see respect and love from God's perspective. Because love is so, what do you call it? I forgot.
Unconditional?
Well, no, it's so... Yeah, it's perceived so weakly today.
Right.
Okay, so here's how God intended respect. to fear. Now, again, the Bible says fear the Lord. Doesn't mean you're there, like a scared little puppy. It's reverence. It's deep reverence. It's to respect your husband to the point where you revere him so deeply that you fear that you're doing, you're mistreating the gift that you got. Now, on the other hand side, how does a man love a woman? Love is equal to worship. If you as a man, you don't know how to worship God, you don't know how to be on your knees, you don't know how to lift up your hands, when you're going to love a woman, you're not going to have that type of, like Christ loves the church.
You're not going to give up your life for somebody you don't respect or value.
Right. And they have changed the what do you call it, when you get married, vows. Today it's like, just let's go through whatever we have to say. But in the past it was, to respect and to love until death.
Right.
And it's
through all the good and the bad, not just the good.
Right.
Well, and we were, I don't know, about 8-10 years ago, friends of ours were getting their wedding vow renewals, and they did it at the Renaissance Festival. Some of you have heard this story, but it's just incredible. Back in the medieval times, when a couple got married, there was like a lasso. The two of them were together. It's like a rope around both their necks. And the first 24 hours of marriage, they had to wear that. So if he went to the right, you went to the right. If she went to the left, you went to the left. You had to learn how to react together, to go the same way that, for you both to be the one. And I had never heard that before. I had never seen that. But our friends did that, and they had that on, and they explained that scenario, and I thought, wow, that would make a lot of difference in people's lives if they could only get that concept.
Amen.
The two of you are one. You have to be joined together. But for the first 24 hours, that is what they used to do way back when. I thought that was incredible.
That's what they were talking about by being of one cord. One accord, but one cord.
Just one last thing quickly. I'm sorry. You go.
Oh, you're fine. Well, I was going to say, in the Greek tradition, they also have, when they get married, they have crowns that they wear, each, the husband and wife, and they have a cord attached to those crowns when they get married.
That's the same
idea.
Wow. That's actually how I got married, too. That's funny you say that. But back to, I'm sorry, my spirit is just regurgitating. What Karen said, 20 minutes ago about cultures. She is absolutely right. I grew up, and I speak German fluently, with the 3 Ks. That was not that I wanted it, but I heard Kinder, Küche, Kirche. So what means is that the woman, children, kitchen, church. Oh, it's 3 Cs. Oh, so you can put it 3 Cs. Children, church. And it's the culture, right? When you start reading the Bible, you realize that a whole culture could be wrong. Jesus says at some point, you will turn against your mother, and it's not like you have a bad day and take a knife and just go against them, but this is a cultural crash when God's word comes again. And, just because 1 million people follow it doesn't mean it's right. It could be 1 million people being wrong. And so you're right. When we hear societies that do that, oppression of women and whatever we had, they couldn't vote. Was that Bible-based? That was my first question that I had. No, that was man-made. So as we go astray from the Bible, we see all these cultures. Well, the Chinese do it this way. Well, are they following the Bible? I'm not saying anything against the Chinese, but I'm making up this. No, so they are not following Christ. No, I'm not supposed to judge them, but love them, but I have to acknowledge that whatever they are saying is wrong because they're not following God.
Right, yeah. As far as judgment goes, you judge, is that what the Word says?
Amen, yeah.
You're not really judging them.
Discern.
It's their actions based on what the Word says.
Amen.
We're supposed to judge according to what the Word says and discern the spirits and stuff like that. So,
thank you for logging on and tuning in to ChristianLivingRadio.com with Doctors Larry and Carol Snap right here on ChristianLivingRadio.com with me, Pastor G. Hey, we just appreciate you so much. Don't forget to tune in each and every Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. and again Thursdays at 7 p.m. right here on ChristianLivingRadio.com. May God's best be yours.